Okay, so this is the next video in the series of visual flight rules lessons, and it's lesson 5, night flight. Okay, so night flying is clearly very different. You need to do special training and get a special authority certificate to fly at night. It's clearly very different. I mean, quite often, and you'll see in the lesson that it's much clearer in some ways to fly at night, particularly the airport lights are easier to spot, and some of the navigation points will be easier to spot, but clearly the horizons are really difficult. Keeping the airport in sight is difficult if you're navigating in an unknown area. So you really need to do your homework, prepare for the flight, make sure you're clear about the waypoints and what the waypoints will look like, and in particular what the lighting will be like. I learned two things on this particular lesson the first couple of times that I flew it. The first thing is to watch out in the end of the taxiway. The runway barrier comes up quite quickly. You need to stop short of the barrier before you get clearance. In the first lesson I wandered onto the runway, which is not a good thing to do. And also you need to watch your height points. So as you climb away from the airport, you'll make a right turn over the lake. I actually climbed too high. The trigger for the lesson to give you the turn inshore is that you stable out at 2,300 feet. I went over that and I ended up going on for about 15 minutes across the lake. Never got any more updates and clearly missed the entire trigger point. So it's best not to do that. Make sure you level out at 2,300. Then you'll get your instructions to turn inshore. Then we made a right turn along the shore, straight down the shore. I won't leave all that into the video because it's a straight run, a 0.6 degrees, 2,300, 100 knots, and then you come into sight of the landing airport, and you'll see in the video what we need to do to get into the landing pattern when we get there. So without further ado, this is lesson 5, night flights. So we go to activities again, bush trips, and the first thing you'll notice is a completely different layout. Like Microsoft, right from the very early flight simulators, have never signed up to the if it's not broken don't fix it mentality. So I think a more confusing menu. Tab down and pick VFR 05 for the night flight.
Flying VFR at night has some pros and cons, with some differences that you should be aware of. Conditions at night are generally better than in the day, with smooth air, lighter winds and improved visibility. Lit runways and other traffic are easier to see. On the other hand, your visual references are restricted, with less ground features visible for navigation and often the absence of a clear horizon. Follow this taxiway all the way to the full-length holding point for runway 08 here at Toronto City Airport. We'll depart 08 and make a right turn, and you'll quickly see how the lack of the horizon forces you to rely more heavily on your instruments. Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie, ready for departure, runway 08, departing circuit to the south.
Sierra Alpha Charlie, roger, cleared VFR not above 2,500 feet, cleared for takeoff runway 08, wind calm.
VFR not above 2,500 feet, cleared for takeoff runway 08, Sierra Alpha Charlie.
So you gathered more successful stopping at the holding point, unlike the first time when I wandered straight past. If you just line up on the runway, trickier when you can't level up the top of the dashboard with the horizon, but if you just keep the 80 knot speed in mind, then that's not too tricky, and you can hold the climb fairly steadily. A little bit too wobbly there on the takeoff, a little bit less enthusiasm on the pedals would be good.
Now make a right turn to heading 180 and keep climbing to 2,300 feet.
So we're going to turn over the lake, and as before, because this turned out being quite a long video initially, I'm going to just cut out to the key points. Particularly if there's a long stretch along the coast back towards the landing airport.
As we look out over Lake Ontario in the dark, see how your horizon has already pretty much vanished. Shift your focus more onto your instruments, but remember we're still VFR and need to maintain a lookout.
It's a bit tricky VFR at night. We need to keep our eyes peeled for other aircraft, looking out for their lights.
We don't want to get too far out over the lake, so make a left turn to heading 020 back to the shoreline. We're back at the shoreline, so make a right turn heading 060 to follow the shore eastbound.
This is in particular quite a long section, keeping the shore on the left as a line feature, so I'll move forward to the next point. We can actually see the rival airport up ahead flashing. It's pretty much straight ahead.
A shoreline is much like a line feature, so keep the shore on your left to keep it in sight and expect opposite direction traffic to be doing the same. Traffic is easier to see at night thanks to the position lights, strobes and landing light. The green position light is on the right wing and the red on the left. This makes deciphering the orientation easy, as the colour indicates which side of the aircraft you're seeing. If you see both red and green, you're approaching head-on. If you do encounter another aircraft head-on, you both make a turn to your right to increase separation. Keep on following the shore heading 060. If you look at 9 o'clock off the left wing, you can see up the centre line of the runway at Buttonville.
This is what I was saying again in the preamble. You need to really do your prep for these flights. Make sure you know where you are on the map and what features and lights you're looking for in the dark.
Looking straight ahead over the nose, we can see the flashing runway lights at Oshawa Executive, which is where we're heading. Notice how airports are much easier to pick out at night if they have lit runways. Unlit grass runways can be nearly impossible to spot, however, so those airfields would only be operational during the day. I'll get the weather for Oshawa. Normally an ATIS is available, but out of hours it's an automated weather observation system, AWOS.
Oshawa Automated Weather Observation System. Observation taken at 0150 UTC. Wind 270 at 4 knots. Visibility greater than 9. Sky condition view 3000. IFR approach RND 30. Landing and departing runway 30. Temperature 15. Dew point 4. Altimeter 29.92.
Alright, so we now know it's runway 30 in use with a light headwind. The altimeter is already set to 29.92. Oshawa operates what's known as a mandatory frequency area. This means a radio is required to fly into or near the airfield. We're getting close to the Oshawa MF zone, so we'll call up and announce our position and intentions. Oshawa traffic, Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie, 10 miles southwest, 2,300 feet, inbound landing 30, Oshawa. We know from the AWOS that it's runway 30 in use, which is a normal left-hand circuit. In other ICAO countries, we'd make an overhead join, descending on the dead side before joining the crosswind leg. The USA and Canada allowed joining uncontrolled circuits straight into the downwind leg from a 45-degree intercept at circuit altitude. The elevation at Oshawa is 460 feet, so start descending now to a circuit altitude of 1,500 feet, aiming for the centre of the airfield. Note that the runway lights we see up ahead is runway 05, but that's not the one currently in use. Maintain 1,500 feet as the circuit altitude until turning base. Oshawa traffic, Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie joining mid-downwind 30 Oshawa.
So the first time I tried this flight, I turned right onto the downwind leg but left myself too far over for the descending left turn to the runway, so I'm going to turn a little bit earlier onto the downwind leg, listen to the narrative, and then we'll get a prompt to turn left again onto the to the base leg and to start the descent into the airport. Just remember that lighted runway we can see is 05, not 030 that we're going to land at.
Okay, we're reaching the downwind leg. Turn right heading 120. Oshawa traffic, Cessna Foxtrot Sierra Alpha Charlie downwind 30 Oshawa. Downwind checks, brakes pressured and released, undercarriage fixed, mixture full rich, fuel on and sufficient. Instrument T's and P's are green, cabin is secure. Looks like a good place for turning base. Start turning left, power back and commence your descent. Take flaps 10 when within the white airspeed band.
There's another one of those tricky left-hand descending approach turns. Power back and let the speed just reduce slowly. So I lost a little bit of speed there, so a little bit of power to just stabilise the descent. I wasn't quite sure whether I was on track for the airport. Quite pleased to see the runway come in a tight-ish turn, so just straighten up to line up 45 degrees with the runway approach, and then hopefully we'll glide in for a decent landing. As you can see at night, the runways are easy to spot. Just need to make sure it is the right runway that's lighted up ahead of you.
Either make a full stop landing off of this one or continue to practice night circuits with touch and goes. Once you're done, press escape to exit.
That's not too bad. We're coming around now, pretty much lined up on the runway, very clear with the lights. Slightly too low, 3 reds. Just need to keep the power on. Rather frustratingly, Microsoft Flight Simulator kicked me out just as I was at the final end of the runway approach the first time around. Just holding the glide in now with the power, and then we just left, just lost the glide path a little bit at the last moment. Flare and touch down on the middle of the runway. Okay, I hope that was useful. That's all I've got for you in this video, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.